Talk us through the worst case scenario here.
How bad can this get?
I got him. We have a location coordinates on your way.
She's on a jet. Destination unknown.
I don't think you understand what they'll do to her when they get her out of this country.
Time's not on her side.
Find the Byron, but the fallout from this is limitless.
Jo is chained to a bed in a room nobody knows exists, and the men who put her there already know things they should never have known. Somewhere inside her own agency, someone talked, someone gave her up. And in Lioness Season 3, Episode 4, that betrayal is about to blow her entire world apart. Lioness Season 3, Episode 3, titled The Bear is Infected, ended on one of the most disturbing images this show has ever given us. Jo McNamara is strapped down to a bed inside what looks like an abandoned mental hospital. Her head, hands, and legs restrained, while a television screen above her plays footage from a press conference she herself helped stage 6 months earlier. That single image tells us everything and nothing at the same time. We know Jo ends up a prisoner. We know her captors are watching the exact operation she ran to flush out Russian assets on American soil. What we do not know yet is who handed her over, and that question is the fuse burning under everything that happens next. Episode 4 is where that fuse is expected to reach the explosive, and if the pattern this season has followed so far tells us anything, this next hour is not going to slow down to let anyone catch their breath. To understand where Episode 4 is heading, we need to remember exactly what Jo walked into. After the shootout at her own house exposed her cover to Russian intelligence, Jo and her team pulled in Oleksandra Balakin, a Ukrainian double agent who had been embedded inside Russian intelligence since 2018 on suspicion that she was the one who leaked Jo's location. Under brutal interrogation from Kyle McManus and Cruz Manuelos, Oleksandra held her ground and insisted she had nothing to do with the leak. Instead, she gave the team something far bigger than a simple confession. She told them the country is riddled with informants working for Russia, low-level and high-level both, and she described a chilling structure of Wolfpack, Tiger, and Bear operatives working inside American institutions without anyone noticing. Jo's answer to this was to set a trap. She planned to leak word that the CIA had captured a Russian operative, without naming names or showing a face, and then let Oleksandra loose so the real infiltrators would panic and expose themselves trying to find out what she had said. It was a bold, high-risk gambit built entirely on the idea that Jo was the one pulling the strings. The final scene of Episode 3 shatters that idea completely. The broadcast Jo orchestrated is being played back to her by the very people she was hunting, which means the trap she built to catch the bear may have caught her instead. So when Lioness Season 3, Episode 4 opens, it will most likely pick up exactly where this nightmare left off, with Jo waking up, or already conscious, inside that same abandoned facility, forced to reckon with the fact that her own operation has been turned against her. Given how disciplined Jo has been shown to be under pressure in every season so far, expect her to fight panic with calculation. She has been trained for exactly this scenario, and viewers should expect her to start working the room the moment she understands where she is, studying her captors, listening for names, accents, and small details that could tell her who took her and why. Her captivity is not going to be passive. Every second she survives is likely to be used to gather information, because Jo knows better than anyone that the only way out of a black site is either a mistake made by the enemy or a rescue mission launched by people who do not yet know exactly where she is. That uncertainty is where the second major thread of Episode 4 comes in, and it centers on Caitlin Meade and Byron Westfield back at Langley. With Jo missing and her tracker compromised, the CIA leadership is expected to be thrown into a full-blown crisis. Caitlin and Byron will most likely be racing against a closing window, trying to reconstruct Jo's last known movements while facing enormous pressure from above to keep the entire situation quiet. This is a show that has never been shy about showing how ugly bureaucracy gets when a life is on the line, and Episode 4 looks primed to lean into that tension hard. Expect friction between Caitlin and Byron over how far they are willing to go, and expect higher-ranking officials to start worrying more about political fallout and cover stories than about getting Jo home alive. The bigger issue hanging over all of it is the same one Oleksandra raised in Episode 3, the idea that America has been infiltrated from the inside, not just by field assets, but by people sitting in positions of real power. If that thread pays off the way the show has been building it, Episode 4 could reveal that the leak which led to Jo's capture did not come from some low-level asset at all, but from someone much closer to the center of the operation, someone Jo and her team have trusted the entire season. At the same time, the search for the mole is expected to intersect directly with Oleksandra herself. She spent the entirety of Episode 3 insisting she was innocent, and the show gave viewers just enough reason to believe her while still leaving the door open for a twist. Given how carefully Lioness has structured its double agent storylines in past seasons, do not be surprised if Episode 4 forces Alexandra back into the spotlight, either as the key to finding Joe or as a suspect who becomes even harder to trust once the team realizes how badly their plan backfired. There is also a real possibility that the show introduces a completely different culprit, someone who has been present in scenes all season without drawing much suspicion, which would fit the slow-burn, character-driven approach Episode 3 took, instead of relying purely on action. Whatever direction it goes, expect the hunt for the traitor to become just as urgent and just as emotionally charged as the physical hunt for Joe. Because in this show, the two threats have never really been separate. The rot inside the institution and the danger in the field always end up being the same story wearing two different faces. Then there is Joe's family, and this is where Episode 4 is expected to hit hardest on a personal level. Her husband Neil and her children have already been forced to relocate once this season after Russian operatives showed up at their home looking for answers. With Joe now missing and her cover completely blown, the danger to her family is not going away. It is escalating. Expect Episode 4 to spend real time on Neil trying to hold his family together while surrounded by a level of protection that cannot fully erase the fear that someone could find them again. Lioness has always used Joe's home life as the emotional core underneath all the espionage, and with Joe herself now a prisoner, that home life is likely to feel more fragile than it ever has before. Watching Neil try to explain to his children why their mother is not coming home without being able to tell them the truth could easily become one of the most gutting moments of the episode, and it forces the audience to feel the cost of Joe's world in a way that field missions alone never could. Underneath all three of these threads, the season's flash-forward structure is doing something important that is worth paying attention to going into Episode 4. Because we already know Joe survives long enough to be tortured in captivity 6 months after the events currently playing out, the show has been building tension not through the question of whether Joe lives, but through the question of how deep the betrayal goes and how much destruction it causes before anyone figures out the truth. That means Episode 4 is not just about a rescue mission, it is about watching the walls close in from multiple directions at once, the physical threat to Joe, the political rot inside the CIA, and the very real danger hanging over her family, all converging at the same moment. If the show follows through on that structure, expect the episode to end on another gut punch reveal rather than a clean resolution, because Lioness has made it clear this season that easy answers are not part of the plan. Lioness Season 3. Episode 4 is set to release on Paramount Plus on Sunday, August 23rd, 2026, continuing the show's steady weekly schedule. Given everything that Episode 3 set into motion, this next hour has the potential to be one of the most intense and emotionally loaded episodes of the season so far, and fans are going to want to be watching the moment it drops. If you want a full breakdown the second the episode airs, along with an explanation of exactly who the mole turns out to be and how the rescue mission plays out, make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on, because this story is only getting more dangerous from here.